football broadcast. We're now joined by Brandon Helwig, UCF publisher for Rivals Network. It's UCFsports.com. He joins us with Craig and David. Thanks for your time, Brandon. Appreciate your patience as well. And it seems like there's I don't know if any school more than UCF has had more of a jolt from joining the Big 12. What do you think?
Yeah, I would agree with that. Just with, obviously this is, a journey that, in some respects has taken a long time. In other ways, not so much, considering, UCF's program started basically from scratch in 1979. Has only been, 1A/FBS since 1996. But yeah, I think just from a recruiting standpoint and the buzz, in the community and the fan base and, under recruiting rankings, we'll see how it pans out. But right now, I mean, UCF is number one in the new Big 12, even taking into account, the schools that are coming in next year from the Pac-12. So, yeah, I think UCF is definitely, there's a tremendous buzz and a jolt from that invitation.
So there's the new four, Brandon, which UCF is a part of, and then in the Big 12 offices, it's the new, or the next wave of schools. The spotlight shifted before UCF could even make its debut, but what are your thoughts on, another wave of Pac-12 schools that will now be coming into the league next year after all of this realignment madness?
Yeah, it's kind of fun. It's kind of hard to have a real strong opinion either way, just because I think from the UCF perspective, you're just glad you're part of this group. You feel like the window was closing in terms of, if you're a group of five school to get the opportunity to reach up to the Power Five. Well, I guess it's not Power Five anymore, just to reach that Power Four level. Maybe there's an opportunity for SMU. We'll see. I know you guys have been talking about, the ACC. That's kind of a crazy story, but just the fact that UCF is going to the Big 12, whether the league was going to, remain at 12 or grow beyond that, there's going to be travel regardless. Whether it's, going out to Lubbock, Texas, or Manhattan, Kansas, or in some ways, honestly, with these four additions from a fan standpoint, if you're, flying commercially, maybe it's a little bit easier, fly to Arizona State with a nonstop to Phoenix. There's plenty of nonstops to Denver, to go see Colorado. We have nonstops to Salt Lake City for Utah. So in some ways, it might be a little bit easier travel compared to some of the other teams in the Big 12.
I asked about the jolt it's given UCF as far as the program, the athletic department. We've had Terry Mohajir and obviously Gus Malzahn and others on. What about the fan base? It seems like they've been waiting for this moment. Some people thought it was still too early, not fans of UCF, but some people thought maybe not quite yet. But they seem to be. I saw the shuttle bus, the student shuttle bus with all the Big 12 logos. Do you sense that as well, that they just can't wait for the first game?
Yeah, I think of course. I just, just the excitement, around the fame. I think it all kind of, in some ways, you can kind of trace it back. UCF obviously had their tremendous run in football in 2017 and 2018 with the undefeated streak. Won the Peach Bowl, after the 17th season against Auburn, kind of the self-declared national champs, although it turned out that they were number one in one of those metrics that got into the NCAA record book. So there's some legitimacy to that. But I just think at that point in time, UCF fans, they kind of got a taste of what it was like to get national media attention. And, they're going back and forth with their friends who are Florida and Florida State fans and all that. And you just kind of long to feel like you were at that major league level of college football. And even though, everyone says, if you're FBS, it's not really the same. You're not treated the same when you're not at that level. And I think that's just what I think just fans are just, through the roof about just looking at, ESPN.com and seeing seeing the Big 12 preview. The Big 12 gets the attention that, the American or Conference USA, just doesn't get.
So, Brandon, the excitement's all fun, and there will be, fun festivities, but eventually it's the football, right? The results that are going to matter. I mean, a lot of people have, said that they think that UCF could be the team of the new four that comes in and makes the biggest impact right away. I mean, Gus Malzahn, and we've heard all about John Rice Plumlee, but what, from somebody who's super inside, are maybe the things that you're thinking of or eyeing or the big stories to you as they get prepared to go and make their Big 12 debut here in just a couple weeks?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me, I mean, UCF is one of those schools that starts a couple of days early. It's just 8 days away. They open the season hosting Kent State We're not going to get any. We're not going to. Yeah, honestly, we're not going to take away anything or much from that game. Kent State, they lost their coach, who left to be the offensive coordinator under Prime at Colorado. Most of their starters transferred out. I think the USA Today came out with some rankings the other day. I think they had them like 130th overall in FBS. I mean, there's FCS teams that are better than Kent State. We won't know a lot about this team, but the week 2 is really going to say a lot about how good this football team can be, because that's UCF goes all the way out to Boise. Boise State, preseason favorite of the Mountain West. It'll be sort of a semi Big 12 caliber game. Can they handle the travel? Because there's going to be a lot of travel in the Big 12 this year. And UCF is one of the schools that plays 5 Big 12 road games. How would they do against a solid team in Boise State? So that'll really kind of tell us, or kind of give us a glimpse of what this season could be like if they go there and kind of take care of business and do what it takes. That obviously will have people a little bit more optimistic. This can be, a season that UCF can make a buzz, but they just got to do well on the early Big 12 schedule, because I think it's kind of front loaded in terms of who they will play. The Big 12 opener is on the road at Kansas State. The home opener is a week later against Baylor. There's a road game against Oklahoma in there. Those are 3, probably some of the tougher games they're going to play. There's a road trip to Kansas in there too. So, if UCF can do reasonably well in that first half of the schedule, that could bode well towards the end.
You mentioned recruiting, and Brandon, we appreciate your time, but you mentioned that. How often are they going to win head-to-head battles, and I'm not saying they haven't, with Miami and Florida State?
Oh, they have. It's still, obviously those programs are going to get, some of the top recruits. But honestly, if you want to talk about, who's recruiting on the same level, I mean, UCF, they really are. I mean, Florida State right now have, tremendous recruiting classes. I think, they're top 5, I think, of every recruit on their top 5 on Rivals. UCF overall right now, Rivals recruiting ranking is 24th. Miami is 15. But they have won head-to-head battles. I mean, just in this year's class, Jalen Hayward, one of the more recent commitments, a defensive back from Brevard County near here. He had offers from Miami. There's several other, and one of the biggest, one of the names that we're going to watch, one of the top freshmen to watch at UCF this year is John Walker, who arguably might be the biggest commitment, really in this Gus Malzahn era at UCF. And he had offers from literally everyone. He could have gone to Florida. There was a lot of people thought he initially committed it to UCF, and Florida tried like crazy to get him to flip to them. And he could have gone to Ohio State, Miami. He could have gone anywhere he wanted. They have won battles. They are continuing to win battles. And that's the thing that I think if you look across this state, some schools are getting a little bit nervous. You look at Florida State, and, they're a traditional program. They're recruiting great, but, they're getting a little bit antsy when they look at the ACC and they're looking at UCF in the Big 12. I mean, we'll see how those numbers, those future revenue numbers, how they exactly break down. But I think everyone is projecting the Big 12 will make more per school than the ACC will in a few years when that new Big 12 contract kicks in. And that's, one reason you see all the unrest in Tallahassee right now is because, they're upset that a program, UCF, that, they probably see as a lesser program, is going to make more media revenue than they are.
Yeah, that's I could tell by the way you could hear in your voice how happy that makes you, and also UCF fans just be able to just jab that in there, and that's a great thing. It's also why the ACC is in the state that it's currently in. Just a few years ago, Brandon, we had this young recruit, this 4-star running back that was committed to Baylor, and I remember seeing him interacting with the coaching staff at that time, and he had gotten this big old Baylor tattoo on his arm, and he eventually, because of the fallout that would happen with that staff, not even end up suiting up for the Bears, but go on to be a great running back, and now UCF's running backs coach. I know Cam Martin has been there previously, but what have been some of the talks and the early returns on the impact he is making and can make for them moving forward?
Yeah, he's a great guy. He's one of the youngest kind of up and comers in college football. I think he might just be, I forget his age. He might be just like 25 years old or something like that. But I had the opportunity to talk with him at the recent media day, and he's kind of had a huge rise. I think his last year at Auburn may have been in 2019. Can't remember if he played in 2020, but I think he took a year off, and then the following year joined, Gus Malzahn's staff here at UCF in an off the field role. He was an analyst. He helped with recruiting, and I think, and then from there, G.J. Kinney, who, people remember from Texas and, originally from there, he got the job at Incarnate Word, and Cam joined him on staff, and he was going to join him. Well, he actually had, because Kinney moved on to Texas State, this past off season, and was going to be coaching at Kansas State this year. There was an opening at UCF. The running backs coach left right before spring practice started. So Gus didn't hesitate, even though, Cam doesn't have, the most experience in the world as a position coach. He saw enough, from him and knew it. Actually played for Gus at Auburn, and, I'd worked with him that 1 year that he offered him the job right away. He didn't even have to interview any of the other candidates. And, Cam said it was kind of a whirlwind. He had already just bought a house, it's near Texas State, and was getting ready just to kind of settle in there. But he came running back to UCF as a tremendous opportunity. And just from a recruiting standpoint, he's been a fantastic recruiter. UCF has two, 4-star prospects committed at running back for this year's class. He's got another 4-star running back committed in the 2025 class. So yeah, he's really got a bright future ahead.
Brandon, thanks for your time. Enjoy it. We'll talk to you again down the road. Brandon Helwig of UCFsports.com on many things. Knights, and we appreciate them and his coverage of them. Also, whenever we can get